Okay, this is the third question on the graphing polynomials section where you weren't allowed to use a graphing calculator. So it's to graph this by hand. So I've got this table here. It says use the table to help you find the zeros of the function, and they also gave you this function here. F of x equals 12x to the third plus 32x squared plus 3x minus 5. So we've got that right there, and with that one, a couple things to notice. First of all, we know zeros are going to occur when the y values or the f of x values go from negative to positive, and that occurs right here. It goes from negative to positive. So there's a zero somewhere between -3 and -2. Okay, so when I make my list of zeros, what I need to do is make sure that there might be some in there. Okay, where else does it go from positive to negative or negative to positive? It goes in there right there. So probably from -1 to 0, there's a 0. And then it does it again right here between those two. So again, you have another one that goes from 0 to 1. If there's zeros, they're mostly between here and here, probably. But that doesn't necessarily guarantee. But that's where we've got some stuff happening there. So let's check. Let's make our list. When we make our list, it's going to be the factors of 12 on bottom. These factors go on the bottom. Those factors would be plus or minus for all these. 1, 2, 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. We said 6 and we said 12. Those are on the bottom. And the factors of 5 here are going to be plus or minus 1 and 5. And so we know that the factors are going to be these ones on top of the fraction, these ones on bottom. And we'll have to do all the combinations. So I'm going to write out the combinations really easily. The real first set is really just this. This is the first set. Not this. This is the first set on top. If you divide them all, if you buy both of those by 1, you get those. So we'll make our list right here. Make the list here. So there's the first set. The next ones are going to be this number underneath both of those. So that's plus or minus 1/2 and 2 and plus or minus 2.5. Okay, that's awesome. So now we're going to do the same thing here. Plus or minus 1/3 or 5/3. Then we're going to do this one here. Plus or minus 1/4 and 5/4. Okay. Then we're going to do this one. Plus or minus 1/6 or 5/6. And the last one is going to be with the 12, and that's going to be, I don't have any more space, so I'm going to write plus or minus 1/12 and 5/12. So when you look at your list here, and I said many choices are going to be between here. If you look here, most of your choices that are between there are going to be, here's a set, that's between there, both of those, both of these, both of these, and all of these are between -1 and 1. Okay? That's a lot to choose from. Okay? We also could include this right here as well. Okay? Obvious choices that won't work. Okay? So the other option is anything between the obvious choices that won't work. Well, 5 is not even on the list on here. Okay, so 5 shouldn't work. Actually, I forgot to add this is also in those original choices. Those are all, that's a lot to choose from. So I'm going to check what's the other option. I can choose over here. Pick numbers between, do we have any answers that are between -2 and -3? Then there might be a smaller set. So let me highlight those ones and we'll circle those in blue. Okay, well there's -2.5. Positive 2f isn't going to work, but maybe negative of it would be a good one. 5/3, if you made it negative, that might work. Okay. Well, no, actually it won't, because that's negative. That's just -1 point something. So don't use that one, and don't use that one. That's -1.25. Okay, and positive 1.25. And the other one is, this one is plus or minus 1.1 2/3. So those two aren't there. So if I am supposed to have one right here, this is the only option I have, is -2.5. So if I'm wise, I've got all these red ones might work. All these ones that I circled in the red might work. But that's a lot to choose from. But I've got one here that I circled in blue that could possibly work. One choice. And if it's going to be, has to be one in between there, it's probably that one is a 0. And I can drop this cubic to a quadratic very fast. So let's do the synthetic division for it. So I just pause it there for a second. You can see I set up the synthetic division down here. I set it up down there. That I'm going to use -2.5 because that was the only option in between -2 and -3 from my table to save me time. And then I rewrote the coefficients here: 12, 32, 3, and -5. So let's go do the synthetic division now. So this is 12. 12 times divided by 2 is 12 divided by 2 is 6. And then you multiply by -5, that's -30. So it leaves me a -2 here. The -2 and the 2 on the bottom of -5 over 2 cancel out, and you're left with 5 here. Okay. And I noticed I made a mistake. This should be a +2. So this is a -5, and that's a -5. The -5 times, oh, I wrote the wrong number down here. I just realized as well. I'm just not on it right now. So let me erase this. This should be this 3 here. I don't know why I put a 0 there. And that will change this answer to -2. So when I multiply that, the 2's cancel out, and there's a negative, so this is a 5, and I get a remainder of 0. And so I have a 12x squared plus 2x minus 2 is my remainder. And I can go, or not my remainder, that's what's left over, and I can go, I'm going to do it on the next slide, I can go and factor that and find the other factors. So we already know that we just confirmed that that's a factor. We know one of our zeros is x equals -5 over 2. So we're going to go to the next page now.